Welcome to Inspired Learning, the Path of Exile podcast with Badger and Yoji. My name is Badger.
And Yoji.
And Yoji. My name is Badger and Yoji. That's what I heard you say.
What? I'm Yoji,
Right?
not Yoji.
Oh,
What is this?
you said I'm Yoji? Okay, well, that is Yoji then. And we're back, as always, with as scuffed intro as we can possibly muster.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot to talk about today. Too much to talk about. So we're going to try and rapid fire some things, go in depth a bit more with some other stuff. Because as a lot of you may know by listening to this podcast, 3.15 Expedition is coming to our shores very soon. Yoji, give me a 5-word sentence on your opinion of Expedition or first impressions.
First impressions? League?
That's 2 words.
I think I'm gonna like the league, but a lot of people won't.
Wait, hang on. That's too many words, but yeah.
I'm not good at counting.
Look, I kind of feel the same way. I think I'm gonna really enjoy the league, but I do think a lot of people just won't even give it a go. And I'm sure we'll talk a lot about why that is, and why we think that, but Expedition League is looking really cool. We got this interesting mechanic coming through with kind of exploding graves, doing some grave robbing, and then bartering with a bunch of new vendors. And we haven't really had new vendors in a big way for a very long time. So that's going to be pretty cool. The mechanic's going to be pretty cool.
I mean, the vendors are mostly like the reward structure of the league, right? It's kind of like
pretty much.
I mean, I didn't think of Ritual, for example, as a new vendor, but it's kind of like a similar thing.
Yeah, similar. Yeah, no, definitely. It's, yeah. I guess the things that are a little bit, I would consider them definitely new vendors are, say, for example, the gambling, which is, like a Diablo 2-esque or is in Last Epoch as well. There's a type of gambling system. We're going to see some headhunters come through there, gambling for some leather belts, I'm sure. Or just hopefully getting some good gear. It's going to be a bit of a make or break with that whole mechanic, what kind of gear we can actually get out of it. If it's just going to be more lackluster gear or whether we're going to get some pretty awesome smart loot, but I think they like playing around with smart loot. So hopefully we'll see some good gear coming out of the vendors. But yeah.
Yep. I think there's a chance there's some fun stuff there.
Yeah. I think so. So yeah, there's that side of it. Then there's the actual mechanic within maps as well, where you're setting down these explosives. You're choosing where to put them based on rewards or other stuff, then exploiting it, killing the monsters. I think it's been stated that there's no fail state of the league mechanic unless you run out of all of your portals. So if you die during the league mechanic, you can come back in and do it. But all of that does kind of say to me, it feels like a bit of a slow mechanic, slower than what we've had in the past, right?
It seems more like a blight or a kind of like to me it feels like a little bit like a legion, but without the timer. And instead of like time limiting how much you can like open, you have a limited amount of like these circles, these explosives that you can place, and that limits the amount you can open. And they try to create choice rather than by time strain. They try to create choice by limiting the resource you have to open, and you have to choose that way. That's what it seems like to me. Which is obviously a very much slower approach than Legion is. Plus, there's no fail state, so you can like disengage, kite some mobs around, engage again, die, come back, if you're playing softcore at least, or log out, come back if you're playing hardcore, which also wasn't possible basically in the last 2 leagues.
Yeah.
Even 3 Heist also didn't have log out and come back or die and come back. So yeah, it seems like a bit more forgiving approach to the base mechanic, at least. The combat, we don't know how forgiving or deadly that will be.
This is what I was just going to say, with all this information of being like, yeah, look, you can come back. Yeah, you can come back with those portals. You can log out. That to me kind of screams that it's going to be a very deadly league mechanic, potentially. Internal testing, the team was like, this is too hard. Like, we just keep dying. Let's not put a fail state there, right? That's what I see, but we'll have to wait and see.
I could be the one, the way they did it, or they like deliberately tried to make a I don't know, make a league that is like a little bit slower, a little bit more deliberate, a little bit less like stressful, time constraints, and then they just up the difficulty until it still matched what they wanted the league to be. So I could see that, because this patch doesn't seem to be about making stuff more forgiving and easier. Not at all. Like,
Yeah.
the general vibe is definitely not, let's chill out a bit and make PoE a bit more casual. That's definitely not the general direction we are going here. That's what I got from this.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of a theme that keeps cropping up over this episode about, you know, what is happening with Path of Exile on a whole. And so, yeah, this league mechanic coming through, you know, we don't really know the difficulty of this, but, you know, whatever is going to come in the grand scheme of balance is going to directly affect how that league, how Expedition feels, you know, whether league mechanic itself in 3.14 standards of, you know, damage that we have and speed and flasks and all this kind of stuff, you know, maybe it was pretty easy, but with the new changes coming through, might be a little bit more difficult. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm most hyped about the bosses. I am very
I expected that, yeah. There are like at least like
excited.
3 that have were shown, right? Or even 4?
I think there was good. There's 3 on the website as like still images.
Yeah.
I feel there was 4 in the video though. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was at least like the big dude who's like looks a bit more chunky than the guy with like the blade who like throws a spectral blade in the trailer. Then there was like some dude or dudette like skeleton-y with like 2 sides or something like that.
Yeah.
That could that seemed to be like a boss, and something that looks a bit elderish. Could be like 4 arms and like floating, and like there's like in the trailer like breaking a mirror and
True, yeah. No, I think there is 4. Yeah.
It might be 4. It might be like 3 base bosses, and like one of them is like the uber boss of the expansion of the league.
Yeah. What I'm expecting is they're on kind of, you know, power levels of Abyss bosses, right? I would expect they're going to be like that. I kind of want them to be harder. Or, you know, maybe more like all, you know, delve bosses or something like that. I usually put delve bosses a little bit higher than Abyss bosses in my head in terms of difficulty and
Abyss bosses, it also depends a lot on like what map tier you engage with, but overall they're not super difficult. But if you find like an Abyss in a like 72 map, then that's not that difficult. But if you find a delve at some point, you will always do like the highest content, so it'll like often find the bosses like very deep plus mods and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, overall I think most stealth bosses are a bit more difficult. At least like the green one and all I think are pretty difficult compared to Abysses. The Val one I always found this was not too hard.
True, the Val one's not too nasty.
Maybe we'll have like a tiered structure in this one as well, where we have like a few bosses where we're more like on the Abyss level, and we have like maybe like one a bit harder boss or whatever that is more
or like Breach or something like that, right? You've got the 3 base, and then you've got Ulnatol and Kaol are a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I would like the a bit of a tiering there. Like they don't have to be the same difficulty. That would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could choose one thing from the mechanic itself, definitely bosses for me, as I said. You know, what are you most excited to engage with? What do you reckon?
The vendor guy who crafts your items, that seemed cool to me. Yeah. That seemed like a really cool thing. I'm honestly not too excited about the other 2 guys, or the other 3 guys even. I mean, one of them is like a meta trader who trades like currency for the mechanic itself and like exchanges charts back and forth. That's what I got. And then the other 3 is like item gambling, as you said, like D2 Last Epoch style, where you pick a base and it will roll random rarity. I think it can apparently even get influences some other fancy stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to easily get. Maybe it can even like double corrupt or something, I could imagine. There could be a lot of fun stuff happening there. But that seems like alright, but it feels like, why not just like, I don't know, buff Chance Orb a bit or something? I don't know why that has to be a vendor necessarily. It's
true. It is basically a glorified Chance Orb. You are right.
Yeah, and it's that's why I always thought like Last Epoch, for example, implemented that mechanic which exists in D2, and I always thought Chance Orb was the PoE version of that, right? I think it's called Geed, the D2 NPC, and I thought that was the PoE version. Was like, no, we don't want that to be a vendor and like a limited basis. We want a Chance Orb, and you can slap that on any base as often as you want and try that way.
Yeah.
So it seems a bit redundant to me. And the haggling guy really depends on how annoying to deal with that will be.
That's gonna be a hit or miss. I really think so. Like, either I'm gonna be haggling a lot, or just never even opening the window.
I think you probably open the window, and if like, let's say you open the window and you see something that is like really amazing, like let's say like the 2 exalted orbs or whatever, you're just gonna buy it. You're not gonna risk the freaking haggle.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
he
sure
can also like withdraw the item.
I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of metagaming of it as well, and some spreadsheets coming out of like, if you haggle this percentage amount, you will always get an item or something. There's going to be some interesting things coming out of that, so people will metagame that part of it. I'm really intrigued about the upselling and crafting vendor as well. It's it's like, going into a hat shop and being like, hey, can I just get that straw hat over there? And it's like, yeah, sure, but wait, no, I've got a very cool flat cap over here. Do you want that? It's only like $5 more. Do you want that one? Oh yeah, I'll take that.
These sunglasses go really well with it, and then put a feather on this as well, and you come out like fully pimped out.
I have faith in this, but I'm really hoping. Well, I have faith because of what we've seen in the past few leagues, but I'm really hoping the voice acting and voice lines, especially for this character, are really well done. And really make you feel like you are being upsold on what you're purchasing. Right?
That would be nice. Cool. Yeah. I mean, so far the voice acting the past leagues has been very much on point.
Yes.
Like, I mean, Trial Master was amazing. Heist, I think, was overall pretty good.
Yeah.
Ritual didn't have any voices, if I remember correctly. Maven, I think, is pretty cool. So I think voice acting, I'm not too worried about, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, and then the haggling is okay, upselling, gambling. The meta trader is, I'm kind of just like, the re-rolls and currency exchange is like, I don't know how I'm feeling about that. It's just, we'll have to wait and see how it functions, how it feels.
It really comes down to execution for that one. If it just feels like a annoying thing that you have to deal with to make the other stuff more worth it, or if it actually feels good. But because why not just drop the reroll currency on the ground from stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Yep. That's like what I'm wondering. Or why not just make a vendor recipe to exchange some of the parts? But maybe there's some interesting mechanic where like the values fluctuate, or maybe there's some mechanic similar to for example, No Man's Sky. When you sell a lot of one resource, it gets a lot cheaper because it's like the market is flooded, and if you buy a lot of one resource, then it gets more expensive. So if you always want the same one resource, because for example you only want to use the upselling guy, that gets more expensive. I mean, if they implement something like this, there's a lot of potential for this to be pretty damn awesome, and maybe they could theoretically even make it dependent on what other people in the same league buy and sell. Like theoretically, that would be possible. But make it like basically like a little bit of a, like, I don't know how you call that, like a trade. Like trade economy within the game, basically, without actually trading with other players.
Wouldn't that be like a little bit of a slap in the face, though? Like, we heard you want fully implemented trade in the game, so we're not going to do that, and instead invest resources into this other pseudo trade system for this specifically mechanic. I
don't know if that was a slap in the face. I mean, from an SSF perspective, that would give us like the idea of trade without playing trade.
True, it'd be kind of cool in SSF. Yeah. It's like parallel universes. You're connected somehow to other SSF players, but not, actually.
Yeah, right. I think that's really cool. Just like currently it's just the ladder, but it would still be like other players' choices would influence your gameplay. I don't think it's what's happening in this league, but maybe for another league, maybe that could be something that would happen.
Yeah, that'd be very awesome. Yeah, the speaking of, having all of these fragments and everything. Well, what do they call them? Do they just call them stacks? Shards?
They're shards of relic shards or something, like pieces. Yeah. They're like fragments and pieces of relics, right? They're like not the full actual cool relic, but they're just like destroyed relics.
I can tell you, I was so scared halfway through the announcement, just seeing all of these different shards popping up. Before Chris announced about, the new stash and the affinity for that, plus affinity for previous things like heist in the heist stash and everything like that's coming in. I was so scared. I think it's going to be pretty manageable now, but it's always a little bit daunting seeing just a bunch of new small, one slot stackable items coming into the game. It feels a little bit cheap at this point, just a little bit of a slap on, like, you know, with a new league mechanic comes 16 new types of crafting currency and all this kind of stuff, right? Yeah. We'll have to see. I think it's going to be fine with the affinities, but yeah.
Yeah, I think with the affinities, definitely. It's a huge step forward. Like, one thing that annoyed me the most about heist contracts is just like you have to always go to the other locker. So that alone is going to make things a lot more smooth after, like, in between maps. And yeah, I mean, I'm still not a fan of like having to pick up like more splinter shard currency things all the time, but
yeah, I'm not a fan of that either.
it's still so much. But Chris mentioned in the Q&A with Ziggy that they want to, like, for example, breach splinters will drop more stacked and less like just like one by one. And I really hope they also address Legion, the what's called the warlock, the war chests or whatever they're called, war hordes. The chest that basically drop like 10, 12, 15 splinters. Would be nice if they just dropped it like
a Legion boss within the Legion, right?
Yeah, Legion bosses as well, and they all drop it one by one, and the chest as well, the war hordes. So please stack them to like 2 stacks or something. Or I would prefer 1, honestly. I don't think it has to be 2, but Chris said like they preferred if it's like at least like 2.
Yeah, if they're gonna stack, please just stack it to 1. Like, you know, we understand that, you know, clicking a few more times might be a little bit more akin to what the original intentions of Path of Exile was, but you know, it's there's too much loot. there's too much out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently like played quite a bit of a game called Battle Brothers. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Takika is also playing that. It's like a pretty old and like indie looking strategy RPG type game, like management strategy, bit of a roguelike, because if you fail, you kind of like die, or at least you can play it like that. And what I learned from that, like when you loot, you get all your loot at the end of a battle, because it's like a strategic battle, you can't pick up in between like moves. You can just click one button and it takes all your loot, but the loot is made so well that there's still weight to it, and you still feel like it matters so much, and you will like go through it, and it's like so valuable. And I honestly, the more I like played that game, the more I disagreed with the premise that for loot to have weight, you have to like physically manage it and stuff. I think what really gives loot weight is like how well it is designed. If it is like, if you regularly can find something useful in it, if you feel like it's worth picking through, basically. And that, to me at least, is more important while playing than it is to physically drag the item somewhere.
And
that's
items,
not as important.
It's still going to have a ton of loot if you pick up a bunch of items into your inventory, then open your inventory and look at those items, and then you'll feel the weight of a good item when you see that item. You know, when you see that, it'll be like, whoa, that's a strong item, right? You know, in Path of Exile, this doesn't really happen too much anymore because of just the way the loot system works, but it does kind of, you know, defeat the whole premise of, we want you to individually pick up every single item and splinter so you feel the weight of it. Yes, what a meme. But yeah, you're entirely right. I don't think it really fits with, you know, having to pick the item up to feel the weight. Yeah.
At least if the items and the systems are meaningful. I think if you just like take lots of clutter and most of it doesn't matter. For example, Bestiary is a good example where the loot like automatically gets transferred into the stash, and you don't even have to like stash it, right? The beast it immediately just pops up in your menagerie, and that's it. But there's like so many beasts that you don't care about, because like who's gonna actually farm all their 4 jeweler recipes or whatever? No one's gonna do that. But the problem that there's less weight is there because like some of them are just so bad, or most of them are just that don't matter. It's like just about the split beast, the 6-link beast, like the ones, there are a few ones that matter, and those you will feel the weight of because you will know if you say, oh, I found a split beast or whatever, okay, yeah, that's worth like half an exalt or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah, so, you know, all in all, splinters or a lot more shards bad, affinity good. I guess. And we'll see how that plays out, you know. Hopefully they're just big stacks of splinters that drop, and we can just click once, and it'll feel good. And
in the footage, in the announcement footage, there was like when he clicked boxes, stuff was dropping. For example, he opened one box, there was like 5 transmute, 3 chaos orbs, and I think like 6 alterations or whatever, something like this, and they all dropped is like 3 Chaos Orbs. So like they were all maximum like stacked as they could be.
We have been seeing more of that as well, right? More than we've had in the past of
Heist had a little
currency
bit as
items.
well.
Yeah, currency items dropping in full stacks, which is really nice. Honestly, like there is literally no downside to that. It's all upsides.
Yep.
Yeah. And then lastly, I guess this is categorized within Expedition League, but I think it's going to be a staple moving forward, right? The new ward base type items. I feel that it's going to stay. It seems like a defensive mechanic that Path of Exile wants in the game.
Yeah, it solves an issue that I think like evasion builds had for a while. That Trickster basically solved for a lot of them.
Yes.
Which is evasion is really good, but you need a high effective HP pool to go with that. And what Trickster does, like you can go like hybrid dodge ES and Ghost Shroud life ES stuff. They have like a big life buffer, or you go like Mind Over Matter Acro Phase Acro, which is pretty popular as well on like hardcore and people play tanky builds. But if you just go Acro with 5k life, it's really, really good until like a hit comes through and just one-shots you, right?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, well, with Ward, right? Correct me if, let me know if you interpreted it a different way. I'll say that. But I interpreted it in the way that you have a ward pool. Any damage that hits you completely depletes your ward pool.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't go over it, right?
If you took 10 damage and you had 300 ward, all of your ward would go away.
Yeah, but
if you
take
took
no
500 damage, if you took 500 damage, all your ward would still go away, but then you'd only take 200 damage to your actual pool itself, right?
That's how I understood it as well, and it instantly comes back after 5 seconds. So no recharge, no interruption, whatever you're doing. Even if you get hit 500 times during that 5 seconds, at the end of the 5 seconds, pop, back to 300.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how it does fit into the game. I'm wondering whether we're going to get, ward stats on the tree itself. Whether, and that will be a little bit more of an indication to me whether I think it's going to be staying in the future or whether it's just, a nice little expedition gimmick with these base items.
I honestly don't think there will be stats on the tree.
Yeah,
because...
you don't think so?
No, because of the item that says ES increases
true.
scale ward. Yeah. Seems like that's the intended way if you want to go really high ward stuff. But even if you want to go ward as your main defense, I don't think that's really viable. You always have to combine it with some evasion dodge block mechanic. And it's really hard to get a lot of evasion if you have ward, right? Because if you want to go high evasion, you want to have evasion pieces in each slot. But then you can't have ward pieces in each slot. And I don't think there are hybrid evasion ward pieces.
Not that we've seen, there's always been that every league, there's a lot that GGG doesn't show us. All we've seen is, some, I think like a couple of base types and then a few uniques. I would say that there's not going to be hybrid, but we don't know, right? We don't know.
We don't know for sure, yeah, that's true. But then would there be hybrid? Also, ward items already have triple stats. They're already strength in dex based. So they're like sacrificial garb. Which makes coloring very, very interesting and flexible, which is nice.
Yeah. The one interesting thing that I did notice is on that helmet specific, it was a helmet, right? The increases and reductions to energy shield apply to ward instead, is that it is increases and reductions. So, for example, acrobatics doesn't...
Oh, yeah. You don't take the penalty.
Yeah, doesn't hit your ward, which is a really, really nice synergy. Because it is, it's a more multiplier or a negative more multiplier on. Yeah,
it's a less. You have less yes, right? Yeah, which is really good. I mean,
yeah.
That kind of makes sense because dodge is one of the main mechanics people will combine with ward. So if acro would chunk that part of this unique, then combining lots of ward with dodge, for example, on a raider or whatever, wouldn't be as strong anymore. So yeah, I think that's a good change. I think that could be an interesting archetype. Let's say like a raider with 5k life and like, I don't know, 4k ward and a dodge cap. That sounds pretty decent to me, to be honest.
That sounds really good. With Wind Dancer, Acrobatics, Phase Acro,
I don't know about Wind Dancer. The thing is, if you have 4K ward, you're not going to have much evasion, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're probably just going to be stacking dodge and ward. You are right. Yeah.
I mean, Wind Dancer is still all right. Like you don't take the less evasion stuff, right? So I guess you probably could still do Wind Dancer. Basically, if you take a hit, and you have ward, you even take less damage.
Yes. Yeah.
But we'll see how that all pans out. People will do a lot of math and part of building it.
Yeah. I think this is another one of those mechanics or something like that that is either going to be kind of vitally used in endgame builds or will never see play outside of very niche builds. I don't think it's going to be, just sitting in the middle there. So I think it's
Do you think you will try it out on the builds early on, or do you think something that will eventually get around to doing?
It really depends what I start with, and I still don't know yet. But I've given myself the challenge.
We don't even have patch notes. We don't have balance manifesto, and you don't know what to start with.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, isn't it? All right. No, but I've said to myself that every build that I play this league will be with a new skill. A new skill cool. Or a new unique. It's a rule that I've given myself, and I'm really excited for that. And part of my reasoning for this, right, this pretty five-head reasoning is if I play a skill that I played before, or an old skill, I'll notice the nerfs that have happened to it, right? I'll notice how much weaker it is.
That's super smart.
If I play a new skill...
So if you play a Discharge now and you do 50% less damage because all the support gems were nerfed, then you were like, oh, this feels like Discharge but bad.
yeah. But if I play a new skill, there's no reference. There's no reference point. So I don't want to say... I kind of want to say everyone do the same thing that I'm doing, but then I also don't want to say that because, playing new skills can be problematic on a league start sometimes, right? And obviously I'm not going to be releasing build guides for any of this until we at least have patch notes. And even then, making actual build guides for new skills is crackling lances.
I mean, I think there are some skills, if the numbers are good and whatnot, that are very basic, and if you can see how they work and the numbers are good, the build's going to be all right. There's I don't know, some of the skills that we have are pretty straightforward and not that hard to gauge, how good they will be, and then some of them are mechanically so different, where it's for example, the slam totems, just name one. If the numbers on the gem are good, and they are currently looking pretty good, and slams don't get a huge nerf, which they probably still will get a bit of a nerf, you can still pretty easily say, okay, yeah, that's going to be good damage, bad damage, and the clear is going to be all right because it's totems. But if you look at something I don't know, the freaking Flask build, you don't freaking know, how is sustained Flask, how is this going to... You don't know.
We're
getting ahead too much.
About that skill. No, yeah, definitely. Well, talking about skills, before we talk about, some other stuff coming through, before we get into the nitty-gritty of all the balance changes coming, let's just quickly talk over this. Let's rapid fire the skills, because we've got, 19 new skills, kind of based around the 19 ascendancies, right? As GGG has said, which is a really cool approach, rather than in the past having very thematic additions. So, Earthbreaker for the Slam Totems looks really interesting. We've got Rage Vortex for Berserker, dealing with a bunch of rage. Bone Shatter for Juggernaut. Bone Shatter is looks like nothing. It looks like
auto
attacking. So, which makes sense because it's Juggernaut's skill, right? So I think that's beyond memeing at that point. And then moving to Duelist, Defiance Banner, very defensive banner actually. Shield Crush for Gladiator. Headhunter support. I mean behead support.
Forehead support.
Forehead support, yeah. Then we got Ranger, Storm Rain, looking really cool. I have some interesting things to say about that. Focus Ballista, I guess he's just going to be an addition to Ballistas. I don't think it's anything new. Explosive Concoction is way too new for us to really even know anything about, as you did say.
Yeah, I played that last Epoch. That's pretty cool.
Yes, yeah. And there's a skill like that in Grim Dawn as well, right? Yeah, I think I played that one in Grim Dawn. Shadow. We've got Ambush. I think is going to be shit. Anyway, let's move on.
I think that's going to be good utility skill, actually.
I don't know.
Teleport to enemy, guaranteed elemental overload uptime. Thank you very much. It's not bad.
Oh,
Doesn't share cooldown with dash doesn't share cooldown with dash, by the way.
I didn't think about that. You know what? Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, Voltaxic Burst. Awesome. Looks really cool. I love the idea of it. Voltaxic Rift, Voltaxic Burst. Definitely a build that probably will be good. Blade Trap looks insane. You don't think so? Nah, it will be.
Eternity Shroud.
Okay, yeah, Eternity Shroud. Yeah, 100%. Blade Trap, melee traps, very, 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 very cool. I want daggers to be existent in the game again, so if we could get a dual-wielding dagger Blade Trap build, that'd be sick.
I wonder if it can bleed or poison, that's basically what I'm wondering.
I'm sure it will be able to, yeah.
It's an attack.
I think so, yeah. It'll definitely be able to poison. Whether it can bleed is, I guess, the iffy thing. Then we got Witch. Summon Reaper for Necromancer. Oh my goodness. This is probably my league starter. Honestly.
Really?
Yep, I'm very excited.
It just looked so janky.
I know, but
it looked epic, and the animations are like PoE2 animations on like stuff looks amazing.
It looks so good. Forbidden Riot for Occultist. Pops upon pops upon pops. I think it'll be really, really good clear skill. I don't think it has single target DPS. Well,
I think it will be probably the meta clear skill, to be honest. It looks so amazing. It's like so auto targeting. It's like there's every checkbox that like someone who plays so fast that you can't react once. So I think that's going to be OP meta clearing skill.
And then Eye of Winter. Oh, it looks so cool.
It looks visually really cool. It might have single target because it shotguns the projectiles, what Chris says.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it'll be S tier clear, and either F tier or S tier single target.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Chain the clear will be crazy, yeah.
Yeah. I think what about indoors with the chain and then Deadeye?
Deadeye wall bounce.
Deadeye? Yeah. Ooh, okay, interesting. Then we've got Templar, we've got our pantsless friend. Battle Mage's Cry. There's gonna be some of the highest single hit damage we're gonna see in the game coming out of this, I feel.
I think this is going to be really cool.
Yeah. Yep. Mana Bond. I think one of my mods, Mox Pebble, mentioned that Mana Bond is gonna feel like kind of macro levels of slams, you know, managing your mana pool and everything like that. It's gonna have that type of feel.
Yeah, you have to like use Dynamo, Arcane Cloak, and mana flasking and all that type of stuff to like really. You have to like play really well and like think a lot to make this work. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I think exerts and like Seismic Cry cycling is like similar to this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then Absolution. I love the idea of a dominating blow spell. And
that's
then
currently my eyeballed league starter.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very strong league starter. You know, if it does function in the way that Dominating Blow does, Dominating Blow has always been a really strong league starter. If, you know, albeit not very popular, it's always been very strong. But yeah, if it's anything like that, it'll be really good.
It's also way easier to. I find it weird. You know what's weird about that? That's a Guardian skill, but it's a spell. You know what's really broken on this? Probably +2 to minion gems from Necromancer, because spells with plus is going to. I think it's going to be way better on Necro, which is weird as hell.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
At least if you go with an approach that gives you yourself like damage as well, right? Because spells, the dominating bros problem is that you can't really scale attacks well together with minions. But I think this has a chance that you can actually scale both. You might even play this on an Inquisitor or something and have the minions just for like clearing aid.
I 100% agree with that. Absolution has a lot more scaling options than Dominating Blow does, in my opinion. And then Spectral Helix, our lowly Ascendant, Blessed Hammer from D2. I see you've got that note there. It looks so awesome. Very excited to see how this does actually function in game or feel in game. Bit more in depth though. You know, you've mentioned a couple of things you're really excited about.
Yeah.
Give me your the skill that you think is going to be the most OP, the skill you think is going to be the least powerful, and the skill that you're most excited for.
Okay, well, I think it's going to be the least powerful is pretty difficult because of numbers, but I think probably Focus Ballista support is going to be the least powerful, and it's not even the fault of the gem. Because ballistas are not in the most amazing spot unless you go like strength stacking, dex stacking, tons of ballistas. But if you have 20 ballistas, they're gonna hit something. You don't need to focus fire with those. And you don't have the stats to really scale up your attack speed to make focus fire work.
I think the attack speed part is the most problematic for me, of you needing to attack for your ballistas to attack.
Yeah, that's the big downside, right? Because normally you place them down and they like just keep firing at a boss or whatever. The upside, obviously, is they attack fast. They have like 30% more attack speed at level 1 gem, which probably scales high. That is a lot of an extra attack speed.
That's
so they'll fire really fast. So I think they can make work. If you have like a DPS, for example, like a Shaper, I can see it being really strong. You place your ballistas when he's beaming and you like focus fire him, you're gonna do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But other than that, if a boss is most like Cirrus teleports around, is that gonna be difficult?
Yep.
But then you can swap the gem, right? You can, in one boss, you can swap it in, like do it Shaper or Elder, where you can actually focus fire the boss. And if you're fighting Cirrus, you swap in, I don't know, like just a DPS gem and be good.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
That makes me think it would be nicer as like a stance thing where you can swap. Like if I can swap to focus fire mode or to normal mode, that would I think that would have been the best way of this support gem to work.
I want more stances. I really, really enjoy Blood Sand Stance. I think it's a really, really cool mechanic.
Or like what's it called? Predator support for minions, something like this. Where you can like mark it and like switch modes of minions. So we're like, okay, minions normally are like aggressive and like fight stuff, and then you're like, okay, I really want them to take down this enemy and just like mark them and like all minions go there. Maybe that.
Yeah, true.
So that's what I'm like least interested in because it seems very strong. I have like one minor tiny nitpick. I think why is Earthbreaker support only Slams? Slams is already the most played melee archetype. Why give it to Slams?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed where I was like, oh, can I use every melee skill? Whoa! No, just Slams. Just Slams.
Yeah. Then what's going to be the most OP? That's really difficult. I think there are a few contenders. But if I had to say one that's definitely going to be really strong, it's probably, as I said, for Forbidden Rite. It's not maybe not the best boss killer, but for clear speed, I am very, very certain that's going to be amazing clear speed. And map clearing wise, it's going to be pretty good. For a single target, I think probably like something like the traps, Rage Vortex is going to be good. But honestly, Bone Shatter's numbers are ridiculous. But that never like help people play strike skills.
Yeah, love-hate relationship. Like I was just playing a little bit of Battle Royale, the Pee-wee Battle Royale before this. Super fun, albeit not fun sometimes because the meta's really stale. But I was trying to play strikes. I was trying to play like Heavy Strike and Glacial Hammer, and it felt really good when you got some hits on and you felt the weight of the hits. You know, not to be too memey there with that saying, but like when you hit and it was chunk. That was awesome, but like in actual Path of Exile gameplay, it's just you just never feel like that with those skills. You know, clearing is trash and all this, and you do get AOE. It is an AOE skill with Bone Shatter, right? Yeah, Bone Shatter.
Yeah, Bone Shatter.
And the more you hit, the more AOE that you do.
The longer your stun duration is, the bigger the AOE.
True. The stun duration, yeah. So
if I don't actually know how far you can take that, but in the video, it didn't look too bad.
Yeah, honestly, it could be really, really interesting. We could see some really interesting stuff come out of that skill. But it looks so visually boring. It's just by far the worst.
I
do want to play it though.
Skill.
Yeah.
I also like the hitting yourself mechanic bit that you have to like think about it a bit and mitigate a bit. I think that seems nice.
Yeah.
But the most excited for. So I'm just gonna drop a combination that I think would be hilarious. Dominating Blow, Battle Mage's Cry, Absolution, and a Herald of Purity. You're gonna have so many minions, and then you scale that all through what's called Spiritual Aid or whatever it's called, minion damage. That's gonna be hilarious. I don't even think it's going to be good because it takes so many gems, and you gotta use the staff basically because you want a 6-link at least your Dawn Blow and your Absolution Warcry setup, and then you put your Herald in the helmet as always, and that's pretty good. But I'm probably gonna start just Absolution and self-cast it either as Inquiz or as Necro, and It's like Herald Purity in the helmet, which is like obvious choice because it's a Fizz conversion skill.
Yeah.
And just do that and use that and see how that goes. You could also do some stuff with Smite, Absolution, Battle Cry thingy, Battle Mage Cry.
Yeah,
because Smite is pretty good as well. And you have like lightning spellcasters who get the aura, and I think there are a lot of options. So I think those are pretty cool. I honestly think that Battle Mage Cry is probably going to be pretty popular because it's a lot of fun stuff that is enabled there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it'll be really, really fun. All
right.
Okay.
What's your
about me?
What did you say? Oh. Most hyped, most OP, and least OP or least interesting.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get out of the way what I think is going to be the least OP or most underwhelming or something like that. Hang on, I haven't really. No, I have thought about this. Behead support.
I gotta guess. Yeah, that was like. I think people are underrating that.
You reckon? I don't know, because you can only have one stack and like.
Yeah, people look at the Headhunter effect and are like, "No, that's not very good." But it is 30% more damage to low-life enemies at level 1 of the gem, and all support gems got nerfed. Yeah, in the current state, it's not much, but
it's 15% more. If you think about it like that, you know, because low life is now 50%, not 35. It's 50% more. 15, sorry, not 50. At level 1, you are right. So, you know, if that scales on a 0.5 more or a 1%, no, it's not going to scale on a 1% more. Would it? Do you reckon it would scale on a 1% more per level?
50% melee gems are pretty crazy like that, yeah. There's some pretty crazy melee gems. It's a strike gem, right? So they can go a bit higher on the numbers because strikes are not that nice.
Alright, okay, well it's either behead support or shield crush, I think. Just won't hit the mark. I just think the mechanic, I think it's a really cool mechanic of having your shield affect your damage rather than anything else, but I think it's pretty flawed in its execution from what we've seen through, you know, new shield charge and then special shield throw. Like, they can be done, but I don't know. I don't think it's gonna function well.
I can see that, yeah. It depends a bit on how big the AoE scales and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
But then shield throw will always be better clear, and shield charge also makes more sense while clearing. Maybe if the single target is really good, it could be like you can like pseudo 5-link your throw and then clear with shield charge and throw, and then use it for single. Because the headset like has like an overlap thing where it does have a tiny bit of.
Yeah, it shoots out 3 kind of crushes or whatever they call them, and 2 of them can shotgun. You can hit with 2, is what they said.
I can see it. I can see it being a big miss, but I can see it being at least alright. But yeah, I agree that it's definitely not on the upper power level list of this stuff.
Honestly, looking at it now, the duelist, you know, in quotation marks, the duelist skills just look really underwhelming. Like the Defiance banner there as well. Like, hey, I think it's going to be really strong. I think it's going to be taken in hardcore a lot, but it's really boring.
It's just not exciting.
Yeah, it's just really boring. So that's not a part of the underwhelming part, or like.
One thing about behead support. One thing about behead support, real quick. It makes no sense to be on the Slayer. It's so. Did you realize? Or did you notice that? Because they said they wanted to use it with Bane of Legends with a cull, but you're essentially cutting your more damage period like almost in half if you take the 20% cull. It makes no sense. It's like anti-synergy. Because you're like, okay, enemies at 50%. Now I'm dealing like 30, 40, 50% more damage with my strike, and it's already dead. Yeah. So it's actually anti-synergy with the Ascendancy class that it was designed for. Yet. Which is
that's
it would make more sense to use on like an assassin or something with the more crit multi against full life enemies, because you just like take the first hit against enemy, bam, he instantly goes to half HP, and then you deal more damage with the behead. That would be Pog, but it makes no sense on this layer.
No,
sorry,
I don't think
GG,
so.
but you kind of did a weird thing.
Most OP. I think Storm Rain is going to be crazy. I've heard a couple of people say they think it looks really underwhelming or won't be very powerful, but to me, it functions exactly how kind of a Scourge Arrow functions. You know, it's a projectile skill and it's an AoE skill, so you can scale up the projectiles and you can lower the AoE to have those chaining projectiles, have those arrows chaining between each other. I think the single target on this is going to be really strong if it's built correctly. Obviously, this is all speculation. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it looks really promising to me. I think a Storm Rain Raider, has a lot of potential. A lot.
Yeah, I think any bow skill that scales with projectiles has always the potential of have really good scaling. Basically, kind of like Toxic Rain, kind of
Yeah,
like Scourge Arrow and
it's
whatnot.
it's pseudo shotgunning, right? So one thing that scaling up projectiles is not good for in the most part is boss damage, because shotgunning for standard projectiles, for projectiles that shoot out from you from an arc or anything like that, they're not going to shotgun primarily. When you've got something like not Scourge Arrow, sorry, what Toxic Rain. I said Scourge Arrow before. I meant Toxic Rain. When you've got something like Toxic Rain or there are others as well. Storm Rain looks like it will be like this as well. When you can scale those projectiles, and the projectiles have a secondary effect that can all damage the one target, that's where things can start to get a little bit crazy. So I really think something good is going to come out of that. However, I'm most excited for Reaper, by far.
I think a lot of people are.
It
looks so cool.
I've seen a couple of polls from different content creators, and Reaper's always it's just right at the front. I'm like, I don't just want to jump on the bandwagon, because I usually like to, choose non-meta things and everything like that. But oh man, Reaper looks so good. I'm so excited.
I can totally see that. The animations look really cool, and the idea of having like one strong minion that you can like direct around, which it has like a secondary ability where you can target it somewhere. That seems really cool. And also having something to you have to feed stuff to it to gain a buff and stuff. So you have to other minions that to keep up, like golems that are pretty easy to keep up, or phantasms, or whatever you choose, like SRSs, animate weapons. You can look like basically anything.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool idea. You could even do like the Arakali spiders. There's like so many of them. That should be pretty good. That actually could be a really good idea, because they are fantastic for clear, and that the Reaper doesn't look like it clears insanely. It's only one guy. He can't clear that well as 500 minions, right?
That's the thing. I'm a little bit worried about the clear of Reaper. But for me, I've always prioritized boss damage over clear in Path of Exile. Contrary to what people want you to believe in Path of Exile, that you must always prioritize going as fast as possible. You can play in other ways. I really like taking twice the time to get to a boss and then one-shotting the boss. That's super fun. So if I can scale Reaper with Herald of Purity as well, because they're both physical minions, that's basically the plan. So Herald of Purity and Reaper, and because Reaper does consume minions, and it gives debuffs to your other minions as well, it's still a little bit. Herald of Purity, you're always going to have them up, and if one of them is consumed, you're going to summon another one very, very easily. Usually in most of the ways you play it. And I think it's 20% less life, 20% less damage of other minions is not that crazy. If you're getting this massive minion doing a ton of damage, 20% less damage on my Herald of Purity, hey, that's fine. That's totally cool.
Yep. But it really will depend on the numbers of the dude, of course, of the Reaper, and there's no way we can know it, because it won't be on the gem. Even if we get 20 gems, it won't you just have to try it out and see how it feels. And I think if you want to start Reaper, and apparently a lot of people will want to, my advice is have a backup plan.
100%.
Have a plan what you will do with your build or your character if the Reaper just doesn't deliver.
Yes. And there is very much a potential that Reaper just doesn't deliver. Because I think GGG is very aware of the state of minions in their game, and putting too much power on minions is extremely... that's just what the meta becomes. Everyone just plays minions because it's such a passive playstyle. And if a passive playstyle deals as much damage as an active playstyle top build, then people will choose the passive most of the time, and then it becomes a really stale meta. So I think that leans itself towards Reaper having not amazing numbers.
No, I mean he kind of, if it clears like what we've seen is kind of like what he gets to, he can still have really good numbers. I wouldn't mind him being like a single target or like a good damage minion that doesn't really clear all that well, but has the upside of you directing him. You just need like a backup plan for having a bit of clear, I guess.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
But it looks really cool, like the animations and like his moves and stuff. Also, he has this thing where he does like more damage to bleeding enemies or something like that, which I found interesting.
It's honestly going to be a bleed scaling minion. Oh, well, I don't think that's the only way to play. I'm sure you're going to be able to cold convert or elemental convert or just, focus mainly on the fizz. But it's something we haven't really seen inherently in any minion gem before is bleed.
Yep. Something I've actually done before is I played, what are they called, the flashback specters, like the piercing from Dried Lake. They shoot out like piercing bleed projectiles. I played those and had bloodlust linked zombies back in the day. And I thought like maybe having
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe having something. I mean, you wouldn't use specters with the guy because he eats them and they're annoying to resummon. But you would could, for example, have your Herald of Purities linked to a chance to bleed, and then just put Bloodlust on your Reaper and still have him scale hit damage. So your Herald of Purities would be like supportive minions for the Reaper. So you would put like Maim and chance to bleed on him. So they debuff enemies, and the Reaper can like kill him for like massive multipliers. I think that would be kind of cool.
100%, yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of other really good ways of automating minions as well. Like, very simple. One is trigger weapons, trigger wands, trigger staffs, anything like that. Even if it's 8 seconds, if you're summoning skeletons or something like that, you're summoning a few of them at a time. And depending on what kind of internal cooldown Reaper has on its consume, that's enough to just keep the buff up on Reaper. There's a bunch of stuff like that. I think there's a lot of room to work with it. The only thing I'm worried about is minion cluster jewels.
Yeah, if he needs those to be good, like many minions do.
Yeah.
And the prices.
Regardless, they will, in Trade League. Okay. I'm saying this. They will be expensive. So buy. Buy when low, sell when high. Everyone, if you're playing on Trade League, it's gonna happen. It'll happen.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be expensive.
Yeah. I think Reaper has to massively flop in its numbers to not be popular, based on how it looks and how much people want to play it. So, yeah,
I agree.
Any other notables you feel we haven't talked on in terms of skills before we move on? Anything you want to mention?
I'm gonna say a quick look over it. I think people maybe Rage Vortex has underwhelmed some people. I think, but it seems like
Rage Vortex is going to be super strong though.
I think it's going to be insane single target, but clear didn't look very, very interesting.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
You can use Rage Vortex on a build that uses another skill as a main skill or whatever, because you only have to like slap it once and it stays on the enemy for a while, right? So you don't even have to main skill it. I think it has potential.
Yeah.
Flask obviously looks amazingly interesting. Blast toss.
Really interesting, yeah. I wonder if it's going to be Taki Cat's next favorite ability, because it seems like something he would really like, right?
Could be, but he's probably also going to play melee traps.
Probably like that. True. Yeah.
or Storm Rain. I can also see him play that.
Yeah.
Just like
Mm-hmm.
I think most people probably got like a few things they might enjoy in this, because I think that's like the upside of having such a high diversity. I think there's hopefully at least one ability where someone, like, for everyone who says like, yeah, I kind of want to try that at least at some point.
Look, I'll be shaking my head at any streamer who doesn't play a new skill. All right, so anyone listening who's a part of the larger community out there, and you're not playing a new skill, come on, what are you doing? Come on, stop playing.
Maybe racing for some world first.
Oh, true.
That's
okay.
That's the only excuse I can see where you're like, I'm not gonna risk it. I'm gonna play. Like, let's say they forget to nerf like one of the current OP builds, as they sometimes try to do. If like all the races play that, then I can get by. But after that, you play new stuff.
If Zizaran releases an Essence Drain build guide, I'm unfriending him on all platforms. That's my call.
I think you will.
No, I think he will. No, it's very fair. Yeah, it's always going to exist, but yeah. Yeah. Well, those are the skill gems, and honestly, they're very, very exciting. But we now have to talk about something I think to a lot of people is less exciting, which is the premise that GGG has brought along to 3.15 that things are going to get nerfed, and not specifically just nerfed in numbers. There are going to be just blanket nerfs in numbers. They said around 20 to 40% damage nerfs to a lot of the support gems that only focus on damage, right? To maybe try and help people use more utility like support gems and everything like that. But also in terms of increasing the difficulty of the base game itself, starting with Act 1. Which, again, we haven't played it. We don't know yet. But to me, there's some good things and there's some bad things about it, I think. We'll have to wait and see. What are your initial impressions about the whole way that this is being approached?
I think it's I personally like it because I always like Chris Wilson talked about in the whole thing, like how back in the day the game was like more challenging and they like have this like probably totally made up graph of like player power, and then said like how the game was like rippy back in the day, and I'm one of these people like back in my day we used to die in ship graveyard cave to flicker strikers. I'm exactly one of those people.
I used to take 30 minutes to clear a map.
Yeah, and then I found Fellshrine Ruins for 5 days to get to beat Val Oversoul, and then was doxed for another 5 days, and then that's what I talk about. And I actually enjoyed that game. I wouldn't want to play it today though, but where we are currently is like so far away from why I started PoE and why I enjoyed the game back in the day, that I personally think a more challenging experience and a game that is more difficult again, has you more thinking, gives you more like actual choices, not just more multiplier, but I want to add reduce the duration on my skill a bit, or do I want to like add some projectiles instead, which has very rarely in PoE has been the case, except for the very beginnings where there weren't even 6 damage support or 5 damage support gems for most skills at all. So that a 6 thing was kind of like kind of nice to have, I guess. Just put some item rarity on here, and not like mandatory damage. So overall, I personally like it, but I think it's a very risky move. It's a very unexpected move, to be honest. I didn't expect them. Like they always said, we want to make the game more difficult, like come towards PoE 2, but I didn't think they meant it that way. Maybe because I didn't want to give myself hope that they would do it. Yeah. But now that it's there, I'm also a bit scared, to be honest, which is like, this is basically what I've been asking for in a lot of things. Like at least the direction and the premise. The execution is a different thing, and we can judge that when it's there. But the premise is something I've been asking for years. And now that it's there, I'm like, oh shit, they're actually doing it. Oh no.
Yeah.
So it's a weird feeling.
It was an extreme surprise to me as well, especially within, I guess, the current climate of the Path of Exile community. Since the whole Harvest debacle, right? There's been a little bit of a shifting of how the community reacts to certain things like this, and with reason. Like there's a lot of really good points that people bring up, and there's definitely, I would say, 2 splits of types of players. Like you and me, I very much feel the same way. Not to just agree with how you're feeling, Yoji. But I've played the game for a really long time. I really enjoyed back in the day when I was so excited that I saw 50,000 DPS on my Jewel Strike. I even forgot that helmet existed. What's it called? The no chest piece helmet?
Bringer of Rain.
Bringer of Rain. When I had 50,000 DPS on my Bringer of Rain Jewel Striker,
I played that build as well.
That was so overpowered. I was so excited.
Yeah,
right?
That was my first Aziri kill, by the way. Bringer of Rain, duelist, dual strike.
Yeah, but I think with us talking like this, it's very easy for people to kind of turn around and go like, Path of Exile boomers, they're just wanting it to be back how it was, and like, part of that is true. We feel that way because there's a sense of nostalgia there. I don't believe that's exactly how GGG is wanting to present this, though. It's not Grinding Gear Games going, we want the game to be exactly how it was a long time ago. I think this is a bit of damage control from how quickly things have gotten, in quotation marks, out of hands.
Yeah.
In their opinion of the pace of the game and everything like that,
yeah.
and what they want from PoE 2. They want it to be less of a jump when they get to PoE 2 than what it would be if it just kept getting, if, say, for example, patch 3.18, everyone had 300 million DPS builds, and then they're like, okay, now we're ready for Path of Exile 2. Look at the game now, right?
2 DPS, let's go.
Yeah.
People are like quitting and mass quitting. Yeah, they have to definitely smoothen out the curve a bit, where they are basically, they can't just go from like Harvest to, I don't know, Atziri patch. They just can't do that gap. And I don't think they even want to go back that way. And I also don't think they want to go back in like smoothness, because back in the day the game was also more clunky. There was desync. There was a lot of stuff that made the game not just more difficult for the right reasons, but also for very, very wrong reasons. Because not knowing where your character is not a good difficulty. But that was difficulty back then. That was a big part of the difficulty. One reason why the Roa charges they showed were so dangerous back then is because they desynced a lot. And even if a Roa was not hitting you, it could still hit you. And one-shot you, as seen in the...
Oh, there was so much about that. It's just like a Roa just like flying across the top of your screen and you're like, oh, hi, Roa. Oh, wait, I'm dead? And then it just like ka-junk straight to you, right? Yeah, there's a lot like that. I think, and
without that,
go.
I think difficulty can be a bit more interesting than it was back then. But I would like the game to be not only more difficult, but also just a bit more deliberate and slow, because current combat is just like explosions. You don't really think about the enemies much, but to get there, it will be a long way and a huge process.
I believe that Grinding Gear Games knows that the decisions that they're making will probably cause quite a few people to leave over this league and maybe the next leagues. And I do believe, not in the sense of like a mass exodus, but I do believe that a lot of people are stopping to play the game. They're stopping playing the game now. And I think that's really genuinely fair. If you just don't enjoy the direction that Path of Exile seems to be taking. If you join the game in the past, let's say, 1.5, 2 years, where it really has, increased in pace, and it seems to just kind of be stepping back, it kind of makes sense that, you joined the game for what you enjoyed, and it's no longer what you enjoyed, right?
Exactly. And I think that it works for both demographics, basically. Like, a lot of people I used to play with back in the day, they left when a lot of people left when Ascendancy came out, actually, because that was such a big power creep step. And then more and more people left now because they liked the game back in the day. And honestly, I actually see some of them come back. Like, I've gotten a few messages from people I used to play with back in the day who didn't play for like years, and but they still always keep like an eye on PoE because it is a good base game, right? And they were like, wait, they're actually nerfing like everything, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's what they said. That's what it sounds like. And they're like, okay, I might come back for like a league and see if that actually is like getting where I want the game to be again. So while people might be leaving, I can see, which I also think is completely fair and fine. And I'm like, if you started PoE a year ago and you enjoyed that game, you joined because you enjoyed that play style, and then now it's like getting it to a point where you don't enjoy it anymore because they're changing it so much and making it slower. I think everyone who has gone through that from closed beta or like even like release to now knows exactly how you feel, because we've all gone through. We started this difficult, hardcore, true to the like I don't know, player choice experience like ARPG, and it slowly became more and more power creepy and easier and like less like in depth and engaging. So we all know about how it feels to start playing a game for a reason, and then the game changes so much that doesn't even have the reason you used to play it for anymore. And that's what those people now are experiencing the other direction. So I think the mistake was probably even letting it to get to there and not changing it back.
Yeah. And it makes sense it got there, like I think it's a very, very natural curve for an online game like Path of Exile to take. And GGG have been realizing over the past few patches, more so than before, that this is happening. So trying to kind of, reset the course rather than just let's add some more numbers, and more numbers, right? The one thing
they're still adding numbers, apparently.
Well, yeah. The one thing I am scared about, personally for myself, is initially it feeling pretty terrible. Initially jumping into the game, and this might last long, it might not last long, but jumping in and just feeling like everything's just taking longer. right? Everything's just taking a little bit longer than what it normally would, and comparing myself to how I would be previously within, the time frame of, a day or two of the league or something like that,
That will mess with people so much as well. Like, you remember when they upped the boss life of all the bosses? Yep. Like, what I experienced, and I think a lot of people as well did, is you did a boss, and you did it like 10 times slower, of course, than the last patch, because it had 10 times as much HP. And I was like, actually killing the boss, I was like, is my build bad? Is this like, when they upped the rare monster life, and I think Incursion it was? Or like one patch after Incursion? And I was
Metamorph, I think.
Oh, was it Metamorph? Yeah, something like the Metamorphs was the bosses, but they also like upped the rare monster life like twice.
Okay, yeah, maybe they did that differently. Yeah.
Yeah, you still get to the point where you're like, okay, is it my build being bad, or is that just what builds are now? And I think we'll have a lot of that next patch.
Yes.
Where people will quit builds because they'll this build shit. And like, let's play this meta build. Wait, it's the same thing.
Wait,
is everything shit now? Damn it! That's what it will feel like for a while.
It might be a harsh reality to some. I think just being conscious of that potentially happening, or not even potentially happening, being conscious of that happening
this will happen,
mentally, it will help you play the game. And after 2 weeks' time, I would say, it will feel normal.
Yeah.
That being
said, you will see streamers and other people do the same bad damage, basically.
Yeah. One thing I will say, like, once again, and I have been saying this a lot, but I don't want people to stop playing the game, because I'm a content creator in the game and I really like playing the game and I want as many people to enjoy it as I can. But if you're genuinely getting really frustrated with the game and the direction it's taking, and you play the new league and it's feeling really bad, then like it's probably going to do you personally good to just stop and take a break and just breathe. Like it's just not worth it mentally, getting so frustrated over it. But I do also know that, like, it's it's a game that's been with a lot of us for a really long time and is so important, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to take a step back and realize it's just not for me anymore.
And I think that's overall also a problem with games that are like online, constantly updated. I think like live service is what the current term is for these types of games. I can't play my favorite version of PoE. I can only always play the current version. It's kind of like what the WoW Classic thing was, when people were like, I would want to play. If I said I wanted to play Path of Exile 1.3 because I really enjoyed that, maybe without the desync, that would be nice, and maybe with stash type affinities, but that's like really it. And maybe loot filters as well, but like not from the like balancing.
All of these things,
maybe Sorry, give me the quality of life, but like the game balance can go back, for example. That would be that wouldn't be possible right now. But I think it would probably harm PoE to have that, because people would play different patches and there wouldn't be enough population to have like a trade economy and whatnot. But it's still a problem.
Some form of a Wayback Machine for a game like this destroys a game like this. Like it really does. It would just destroy it more than just complete exponential growth in numbers of DPS or anything like that. Like being able to select a patch with it'd screw the game.
It wouldn't work, but at the same time, it would still be nice.
Yeah.
If those games would be accessible for people who want to play them, right? Because it is still like, I don't know. It's kind of like, let's imagine like whenever a band releases an album, every old album would be destroyed and never listenable again.
This is the thing, and this is getting like a little bit into a different topic, but I was just reading an article on someone talking about, I can't remember who it was, but the history of video games not actually being preserved properly at the moment. And it's actually something that I'd like to ask GGG, and I would assume that they wouldn't be able to, but like, hey, can you actually boot up a private like, do you guys have Path of Exile 1.0 there that you can actually boot up and walk around in? Like, or is that lost? Is that gone? Which is really, that actually makes me a bit sad. And there's a lot of games out there that are like that. They're just constantly getting, just built on top of.
There's even like source code of old like SNES games just lost, or of all old I think PlayStation games sometimes. Where if you once the last CDs die, if you don't like copy the game somewhere, you can never play that game again. And I think that comes to be because back in the day, people didn't really think of video games as like an art form and as a cultural thing that needs to be preserved, but just like it's basically like a program people have fun with. Like, who cares? Like you wouldn't think about that. But then you went to like music and like paintings, they have to be preserved. They are like culturally like important. But yeah, I think that's like kind of like it goes like way beyond just talking about making PoE more challenging, but that is a lot of the stuff that lies behind that type of stuff, and maybe we can at one point make an episode actually about that type of stuff. That'd be
super fun. Yeah, we could get someone else on about that, and we do want to get quite a few more guests on and that sort of thing, because guest episodes are heaps of fun on Inspired Learning. I'm sure you guys enjoy it as well. But yeah, okay, so look, that's a lot of talk there of the challenging side of. Oh, we haven't talked about flasks. It's another element, I guess, to it.
There's so much to it.
How much time do you have, Yoji?
We should probably still go through all that stuff. I mean, it's gonna delay the trailer, so people gonna be mad. But... We're
eating into Yoji's trailer editing time. I'm so sorry.
It will be out today, like no matter what. It will be out today. I'll finish it. If it has to go to like midnight, I got the thumbs up from the family. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, cool. Well, flasks then. It's another element, I guess, to... Part of it is GGG didn't want to frame it this way. Chris didn't want to frame it this way, but I do see it as, a difficulty increase right here with these flask changes.
Oh, yes. It seems like a nerf, basically.
There was when they were talking about flasks, they were very specific. Chris was very specific of the words being used and everything like that. He did really well even on the Q&A, the live Q&A. There was no mention of any sort of nerfing there, but it's a big nerf to the flask system. In one regard.
In several regards, I would argue.
Oh yeah, in several. There's potentially maybe a couple of buffs in terms of automation, but I have a few thoughts to share about that as well. But anyway, so TLDR flasks across the board are getting pretty severe numerical changes. Utility flasks, I should say.
Yeah, utility flasks. Life flasks and mana flasks stay the same, right? For the most part.
Flask generation across the board, like charge generation is getting nerfed. So in that sense, life and mana flasks are still getting nerfed. In terms of numbers on the flasks themselves, most utility flasks are getting nerfed, as well as their modifiers on the flasks themselves, such as your, dowsing, your warding, your curse stuff, and everything like that. Basically, they want to shift it from a proactive use of your flask, for example, using a freeze flask to stop yourself from getting frozen, to a reactive use. So if you use this flask when you're frozen, you'll be unfrozen, but if you use it when you're not frozen, it won't do anything, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of other flasks coming through. What was it? The gold flask, which was a rarity flask? I don't know why. Anyway,
I
don't know why that's coming. Anyway,
I also don't know. Also, like a lot of the current flasks got different implicits and stuff now, and their charge use has been changed. There's like been an overhaul across the board. For example, basalt flask no longer is reduced physical damage taken, but it's like more armor. For example,
yes. Do you
which
think we're
doesn't apply to dots.
Flask nerf? Like the Quicksilver value?
I don't think the movement speed is going to get nerfed. Honestly, I think the charges might be nerfed. Honestly, that's what I think. What they go after, they don't have the uptime as much.
True.
But when you use it, it will be more of a I need to be speedy now, and then to zoom, and then I could honestly even see them take the movement speed up, to be honest, because if you only can use it like very rarely, it would be kind of like a nice I have to dodge stuff now, I have to like run away now, then you use it, and that would go very much in line with their like on-demand use and not the proactive all the time uptime use.
I do just have to comment on this. Pebble, one of my mods, just said something very funny. GGG is going to check all of the characters with gold flasks equipped to find bots, and as much of a joke that's so good. Extremely true. Like
that would be so amazing. That could
down to a
work.
T. That would actually work. No one's going to be equipping this apart from bots.
There's like bots, and there's like maybe the one handful of magic find culling people in party play. That's like all. So basically, if you have people playing alone with that flask all the time, it's a bot.
Anyway, yeah, that's pretty great. I think the most important thing to talk about though is the nerfs to Flask generation or Flask charge generation, and why it makes sense from GGG's perspective. You know, Flasks were brought to us with the base game of Path of Exile, and Flask generation I don't think has really ever changed, but pack density and speed of the game has increased, as Chris said, almost tenfold. So we could think of it in the way of we are gaining almost 10 times the amount of Flask charges than was originally designed for the game.
That's just because the density went up, but we are also gotten so much faster. I think it is honestly like ridiculous amounts more.
Yeah. So
during clearing,
that's not saying it's being nerfed by 10 times. It's not. You know, it's not going back to what it used to be, but there is a fairly hefty nerf there. And what comes with that was what was talked about a lot is they do want Flasks to be more of a more of reactive usage rather than constantly having all of your Flask effect up at all times.
I think that the second part is actually more impactful than the Flask charge nerf, because there's a map mod that's like players gain 30% reduced Flask charges.
Yes.
Did you ever notice that?
Never. It was literally never a problem.
Okay,
it's a dead mod, and now it's not.
Now it might not be. Maybe it's they even buff the mod, like make it like 50%, and then on top of what we already have,
you gain no Flask charges.
Players don't have Flasks this map.
Your Flasks are disabled.
If you enter the map, the Flasks are destroyed forever permanently.
I'm pretty scared, honestly, about the Flask charges. I think this is the thing I'm most negative about. Honestly, I feel like they may have missed the mark with how this is, and there's a couple of other things.
They probably did, yeah. I mean, they're usually like with these big sweeping changes, they usually get like the ballpark roughly right, but there's like at least like 5 to 10 things that feel awful, and then they iterate 5 times, and then it's perfect or like pretty good, and then we have 500 other problems at that point that we have to that we are complaining about. I think it's going to be the same with this. Like we've been through this like so often.
Well, one of the main reasons I do say this is mostly to do with the visual clarity of Path of Exile right now. And if GGG wants Path of Exile to be a more reactive gameplay, we need to be able to see more of what's going on.
What the fuck is going on? Yes.
Because
we have to see that.
Like if we get frozen, we need to see either us about to be frozen, you know, really be able to see where that cold damage is coming from.
Yeah.
Or have, you know, more, you know, for example, more of an effect or a sound of us actually being frozen. A screen flash, you know, a little crystallized screen flash on your screen of you being frozen.
Yeah,
right?
The edges of the screen, like freeze in, for example, or something like this would be nice. Also having, I mean, currently you always have to look at the buff bar at the top right or like top left, and like be like,
yes,
am I frozen? Or am I just stunned? Or did I walk into like a slow? That's basically like, it's annoying as hell.
So I think there's one change being made here that doesn't address any of the other changes that do need to be made at the same time for this to feel good. I'm a disbeliever in this in this feeling good in many ways. It'll be interesting. Now this is semi-combated with the crafting orbs that we are getting for flasks. There's there are 2 different crafting orbs. One of them, which I think is going to be the more important one, is the Instilling Orb, I think, is the one that applies situational effects to your flasks. For example, you could roll, when frozen, use this flask, or when reaching full flask charges, use this flask, right?
Yeah.
Which, hey, might solve the problem of you being frozen, right? I'm really pissed about this, though, because there's 2 elements of RNG on this. There's the RNG of you finding the Instilling Orb, and then there's the RNG of you getting the right mod on your flask for that Instilling Orb to work, for your flask to function in an okay way, right?
They basically put
yeah.
put QOL behind a currency orb, what it feels like.
Which
To I think a lot of people.
I'm really not a fan of that.
I
And
mean, a lot of
Chris, when Ziggy said, you know, do you view this as like a quality of life improvement? Chris was like, no, I don't. Like, this is not quality of life. This is us just changing the game. But it's 100% quality of life. That's what this is.
I mean, we have that stuff as well, like getting, for example, manually cursing enemies versus curse on hit rings, or having a curse on hit herald of thunder or whatever running, something like that. Or I don't know, using enduring cry or having an endurance charge like triggered somewhere else or something like this. I think there's a lot of that stuff in PoE. I'm not sure flasks are the correct thing, like the correct place to have this. On the other hand, it also really depends on how common they are. I think Chris said something like in the range of like baubles, GCPs, something like this.
Yeah.
Which isn't too bad. Maybe there will be a recipe. What I would think would be cool if we can actually find instilling orbed flasks. That would be kind of nice. Kind of like you can find. There's like it has to be like a lower chance of obviously, but with like a random mod. Let's say you can find like drop a basalt flask, and it randomly has like triggers when I don't know, you are cursed or whatever, something like this, and then you can like try to roll or put warding on their quality that up. I think that would be kind of nice because you still have to find the correct base that you want to use with a good enchant on it, or like what a good instilling on it. I guess don't know what you call it. Is it an enchantment? What is it? Second implicit?
Is it being enchanted?
What's
it might
like
be an extra. I don't know.
It didn't look like an enchantment because it didn't have the bright text,
I can't
right?
remember, actually. Let me... Wait, I've got it right here. Wait, do I have it right here? Oh, yeah. No, it's an enchantment.
So it doesn't stack with...
it adds an enchantment. Yeah, so it is an enchantment.
Okay.
Yep.
So it doesn't stack with the harvest enchants, for example, and they will replace it, so be careful with that, apparently.
Oh. Ooh, yeah.
So you have to be really, really careful with your flask now, because currently, if I get the flask thing, I just chuck in some random flask for shits and giggles. But we've
got another harvest nerf.
Oh no! They're always nerfing harvest somewhere in each patch. No, like how I overall feel about the changes is, I don't really mind the instilling orb thing that much, to be honest. And I like the flask be more powerful, but they don't get charges during uses. That's something that's going to be really good on boss fights, for example, where you don't get charges that much. For example, like Cirrus, you're getting charged whenever he goes up in the sky. So if you make sure that your flasks are not up there, so there's like some management mechanic there, you can still have the flask charges during the fight and have like some really powerful, more powerful flask effects.
Yeah,
I kind of like that idea. It's obviously worse during clearing than having to gaining charges all the time. The automation, honestly, like unless your character is otherwise freeze immune, seems kind of like mandatory, because I don't have the brain power to react to freezes.
Not in the current Path of Exile climate. Like it's
not at all.
Maybe your Darkies or your Tai-Tais might be using the flasks without the instilling orbs because they don't need to, but us casuals, Yoji, we stand no chance.
And we're all gonna like struggle to just not press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the time, because I'm so used to that. I'm gonna struggle so hard, because for years I've been just being like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like every 3, 2, 3, 4 seconds, and not doing that. Like I always struggle during leveling to not do that, because that's like really poor like Quicksilver management and stuff like that. But even then I would catch myself at some point just going like this, because it's just what you're used to, and it's that already is going to be difficult. And I don't want to press that many buttons, honestly. I'm pretty happy with my I like button heavy builds. Like I play Cremation, where I have to Sigil of Power here and Arcane Cloak there, and I like manually Arcane Cloaking. I don't like putting stuff on left click unless it's like really doesn't matter. And they have to like desecrate and pop that and use your movement skills, and I use 2 movement skills, which are getting nerfed, by the way. And it's a lot more buttons that you have to consciously press, which is a downside. So maybe people are just gonna automate all the things and just don't press flasks. It's really difficult. Maybe they should have reduced flask slots and changed them even more drastically, so people can actually have the brain capacity. I don't really know.
To me, it's a little bit disheartening, because I did know that, like, I think it's been mentioned in the past that Path of Exile GGG has been working on some updates to the Flask system, and I was pretty hopeful to that. And knowing that this is the direction, orbs and less charges, but just keeping them the same in the amount of slots that we have and the amount of flasks that we have, but adding these orbs and the way that they're doing it, it wasn't the outcome I hoped for. There's other.
It really depends on how it will play, right?
Yeah. Look, we haven't played it. Hey, we don't know. We don't know. But yeah.
But for example, 1 second immunity is what you get. Like, let's say you get ignited, you remove the ignite, you get 1 second of immunity, and that's not a lot. No. Like if you're fighting, for example, a boss in a map that has monsters always ignite, that's not gonna help you. Just not. It's just not, even if you have 5 of those flasks, it's not going to get you through the boss fight if you don't have crazy damage and just nuke everything. So I'm kind of afraid that these changes will lead to people just going more glass cannon instead of trying to deal with stuff and try to just outstat again, as always.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But we'll see. And also, I think, do you think immunities on, like ailment immunities and stuff on ascendancies will survive?
I think full immunities, so across the board immunities, say for example your Raider or your Inquisitor that grant immunity to all ailments will get nerfed. I think specific immunities to single ailments may stay the same.
Yeah, that's what I think as well.
Yeah.
I think that, for example, Raider would thematically make sense to be, for example, freeze immune because you can't stop him, it's just too fast. That would kind of make sense, right? That would still help because it frees up a flask slot.
But this is another thing with these flask nerfs. What comes with it is, exactly what Chris has mentioned. Is there is going to be sweeping changes. I think he said sweeping changes to, or a balance pass to immunities or something like that. And when and GGG has said that in the past, that does mean nerfs.
Yeah, that usually means like Chris Wilson upgrades his one-handed nerf hammer to a two-handed nerf hammer, uses a war cry, and stuff is gone.
Yeah. Yep. So it's honestly just something we have to wait for the balance manifesto. You can assume that we're going to know fairly decently what immunities are going to look like from the balance manifesto, and then obviously more from the patch notes. But I think the manifesto is. Oh, I think the manifesto is going to be a.
When's manifesto time? Is it tomorrow?
No, it can't be tomorrow.
I think manifesto's before the patch notes.
Challenge is tomorrow, and then manifesto after maybe.
Okay, Charlie. For me, it's like in the evening. So for me, challenges are basically tomorrow because for me, I think today is challenges. But yeah, time zones.
So it's still Sunday for me, so it's tomorrow for both of us because it's Sunday for both of us now. Because
but for me, it will still be Sunday when the I think when the challenge stuff comes out, right? Because it will already be Monday for you.
It'd be Sunday night for you, yes.
Yeah, it's Sunday. It's like the night from Sunday to Monday basically is when I get challenges, and then from Monday to Tuesday is when I get when we get.
True. Manifesto. So I guess it would be tomorrow for you. Yeah. Time zones.
Time zones.
All right. Well, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, look. I think this is going to be a really interesting patch. I think. Okay, here's a question. Do you think we're going to see more or less retention? Or I guess, both highest player-based numbers or higher or lower player-based numbers than we saw in Ultimatum and retention. What's your guess?
I think the reason I think they are actually having the balls to do this is probably because they saw that the harvest changes didn't cause a mass exodus, and that was probably the biggest reduction in player power we've had in a while. So I would think that is probably not going to change too much. There's going to be a huge outcry, but I think it's going to be not a huge majority. And I think it might be compensated, as I said earlier, by the fact that some people might be coming back for this, because there might be some of the people who quit back in the day. So I think I really hope it beats Ultimatum, because Ultimatum was, for me and for a lot of people I know, really, really, probably the worst league in a while. Not just for the league mechanic, but just like from the overall patch, the overall feel, like everything just didn't really cut it for a lot of people. Like many people that I've never seen take breaks from PoE have taken breaks from PoE last league.
Yeah. I took a pretty extensive break, honestly.
I'm pretty, I'm pretty hopeful it will beat Ultimatum. Yeah, I don't think it will be the highest player numbers ever because we just had the Maven expansion, which was huge, and it's not gonna beat that. I don't think so. It's just a league. It's not not an expansion.
I think. Well, I think that, and this isn't just because of the nerfs and everything like that. This is just because of trends of this is the mid-year league-ish. And that naturally does come with a little bit of a drop. These next two leagues do come with a relative drop. I do think we're going to see a lower player base than potentially the last two leagues. I think retention-wise is going to be much better, though.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, because the people who actually, after all these nerfs announcements, still play, they're just not going to quit.
Yes. Yep.
That's true. Yeah, that makes sense.
My retention's hopefully going to be better because I'm going to have so many skills to play.
Yeah, skills really will help with retention as well, because people will have at least like 2 or 3 builds they wanted to try, and not just like 1 or 2, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
19 possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, some people are saying it's the summer league, which makes me cry inside because it's winter over here. It's not the summer league, guys. Come on. But you are right. Like for a large part of the player base, a lot of Europe and states and that sort of thing. It is the summer league. So yeah.
I actually read that there are not that many people in the world actually living on the southern hemisphere. It's like most people are living on the northern.
Yeah, it was
It's like 25%, 20%.
No, it's less than that.
Like 50, it was a ridiculously low number.
Like 12, 13% or something
15,
like that, and it blew my mind. I saw that. No, I think it was my brother actually on one of my Twitter posts said something like that. Yeah, he said what blew my mind was that 13% or 12% of the world lives in the southern hemisphere. And I was like,
that's so few people.
Oh no.
So that's why the world is not balanced around you guys, because you're just too few people.
Okay, it is a summer league. I'll back off. All right.
Your weather's just wrong for the season. I mean, it's 12 degrees. That's summer here, so who can really tell?
Us complaining about it being so cold in winter, and yes, it's 12 degrees outside, right? Yeah, it's summer.
That's nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's
wrap up time.
I think it's wrap up time. We did pretty well.
Yeah, we didn't really cover every detail.
Not everything, right?
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
I think we hit on all the main points. So yeah, so what's your overall outlook on the next league? Are you positive? Are you negative? Are you kind of on the
overall?
On the
I'm positive. Yeah, overall, I'm pretty positive personally with the directions that GGG are taking. Very apprehensive though. Really apprehensive into how this will actually play out and how the community will react. We're seeing a lot of reactions right now without knowing anything, but the real reactions that I'm interested in are the reactions that happen when people are actually playing the content. So we'll see, right? Yeah, pretty apprehensive. What about you?
I'm really excited for the balance changes and the meta shake-up and getting the game more difficult. Personally, I want to be more challenged more by PoE again. I'm really looking forward to it. As you said, I'm also a bit unsure if they will hit the mark on some of these changes, or if it will initially feel a bit wonky and a bit bad, and will, lead to the outcome they want. I have huge props to GGG. I have huge respect for them taking this big risk and basically placing what they want the game to be and their, I don't know, like artistic integrity, I guess, for their game above like being risk averse and being like, okay, we can't make these changes. It's gonna piss off the player base. And maybe because, as I said, they've seen that the harvest exodus just didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, some people left, and some people will, but it was not an exodus. It was some people going away because the game changed in a way. And I feel for those people. Like, it's as I said, I can totally understand how that is. And I felt this way about PoE in the past, where I took a longer break and I had to change the approach I have to the game to still enjoy it, which I still do, but in a different way. And now some other people might have to do that, and it's not easy, and maybe you will walk away, and I think that is completely cool. It's just a video game. You're not walking away from your family, you're not walking away from your friends, or from, I don't know what else is important to you, but it's a video game. Yes, it's an amazing video game that's been with us for years, but it is still something you can grow out of, or the game can grow out of you, as you could say.
Sorry, but yeah, my microphone's just falling apart right now. 1 second.
Oh no.
Yeah, but what if I don't have family or friends, Yoji?
I mean, then
that's all I've got.
I mean, you can still, like, I don't know, sucks to be you, I guess. No, I mean,
You hear that, chat? No, honestly, you're getting cancelled on Reddit, Yoji.
Yeah, that's no. I'm already cancelled everywhere. No, I honestly think, like, if PoE is, like, mostly what you're doing, then you can, like, slowly try to, like, find other hobbies and, do other stuff. Like, play D&D. That's, like, the best way to make friends if you're, like, a nerd, in my opinion. And if you like PoE, you probably gotta like D&D as well. It's like, whenever people ask me, like, how do you make friends as, like, someone who's, like, a bit nerdy and introvert? I was like, play Magic the Gathering, go to Friday Night Magics, and, like, play D&D. It's, like, super easy. It's, like, all nerds. They've got
you'll find some friends. That's true.
And it doesn't work without other people, so they're not gonna send you away. Unless you're being a major dick, but then you have other problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. And Yoji, when are we playing D&D? When's that happening? We should do it.
Come to Germany, you can play D&D. I don't like online D&D, that's the thing.
True. Yeah, I don't really... I've tried it before as well. You are right. I think we talked about this, right?
Yeah.
I don't like it either.
I like the sitting together in the same room, having some, like, ambient music stuff on, and then, like, having a DM screen in front of you, and I like that type of stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. No, it is way, way better. Yeah, all right. Well, look, that's the episode pretty much done. A little afterword, just in terms of the content of Inspired Learning going forward. We will not be uploading this episode onto Yoji's YouTube channel.
Yep.
What's happening?
Is Yoji quitting YouTube? What is happening? No, I'm not. But YouTube apparently is a bit weird when you upload very different types of content, and apparently doesn't show a lot of people my videos anymore. And even though it's not my job, or, like, I'm not dependent on it, I still like people to watch my content because I still think it's good content that I'm making. And YouTube is, like, really annoying. I could probably rant about that, like, 500 years.
Oh, I could as well.
YouTube is not good for creators, and that YouTube, like, a cultural medium such as, like, videos shouldn't be dependent on ad revenue and algorithms. Like, you're making content for algorithms, and that's not good. So I'm gonna make content for algorithms and not have Inspired Learning on my channel anymore. And Badgers, I think, is gonna try to put it on his channel and see if YouTube also hates that.
It on mine. Yeah.
So and if YouTube doesn't hate it,
yeah,
that's where it lives. And if YouTube does hate that as well, we're gonna make a separate channel for those people who really wanna watch Inspired Learning on YouTube.
Yeah.
And can't maybe watch it live. But the audio versions are always there for everyone who's listening or not yet listened. Those are not going away, and those are probably one of the easier ways to access the podcast anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll keep doing that. So I'll upload this onto my channel and see. It'll be a test, a trial, right? Because, you know, I very much sympathize with Yoji in terms of YouTube algorithms and everything like that. You know, it's been screwing me recently just because of the irregularity of my uploads, which has been partly on my half, but you know, it just happens. We'll have to wait and see. I do upload a little bit more regularly than Yoji, so maybe it will be fine on my channel. We'll see. No, but Inspired Learning is not going anywhere, guys. Don't worry. Inspired Learning is staying. We're just trying to figure out how to get it to you guys the best, because honestly, you know, if it's on Yoji's channel, it's not actually getting pushed on Yoji's channel because of the way it is working, then, you know, you're not seeing it as much. We want to be able to get it to you guys in the best way possible. So we're going to be exploring with that. But yeah, that's about it. We might... Yoji, you going to stay around for a couple of questions, or do you got to duck?
I gotta edit some video. Like, if I don't get that trailer out in time, people are gonna get so mad. I don't want to.
This is the end. But yes, Yoji, within 24 hours, we'll have a trailer up. That's what's happening. So the actual trailer.
My PC explodes or something.
True.
The actual trailer, not like that trailer that we have already seen. The actual.
Not the boring trailer, but the actual trailer is going to be going to be out. So
it's gonna be a bit of a different approach this time as well. I made it longer and cut out less jokes. So I put some jokes that are maybe tier 2 in there, but maybe that works as well. I kind of want to try something different. Usually I won't write like a huge script, and like cut down heavily on the jokes. This time I want a humongous script and cut down a bit less. So we'll see. It's like
Cool.
I think like 4 minutes ish instead of like the usual like 2 to 3.
Heck yeah, I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited, chat. This is gonna be good. Brilliant. Cool. Well, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and catch it on my YouTube channel this time. If you came halfway through or are here just at the end. But that's all we have time for. And as always, stay sane.
Exiles.